Hello everyone, this is Chudumen Namdi. Welcome to my JavaScript course, Understanding JavaScript. In this lesson, we'll be looking at understanding typeof in JavaScript. So now let's dive in straight. Typeof is a operator that is used to determine the type, the data type of an operand. So in JavaScript, we have so many data types. We have primitive data types and object data types. Now, primitive data types are low-level data types that are inbuilt in the JavaScript engine. They are string, number, BigInt, boolean, undefined, symbol, and null. They are primitive value. What makes them primitive is because they are represented directly at the lowest level of the language implementation. Now, also primitives they are immutable. That means they cannot be altered, and also they do not have methods that we can use to directly access them or change them. So, for example, let's say we have this variable name, okay, then and also we have this variable age. Now, remember that JavaScript is a dynamic language. This means that data types are only defined during the execution of the JavaScript file or during the execution of the code. Now, this name here can be a string, number, boolean, BigInt, object. So the type is determined by what it is passed to. Its value here is a string, so therefore this variable is of data type string. This variable age is passed a value, then the value is a number, so therefore the variable age is a number. Now this variable is married, is a boolean type because its value is a boolean. Now also let's create this. This now is an object, so therefore status is an object. So we see that in JavaScript the type is determined, the data type of a variable is determined by the value it is assigned to. Unlike Java, which when defining a variable, you must first specify the data type first, then before declaring the variable, writing the name of the variable, so that we know that this variable here, name, is of string. Assigning it a variable length won't work, int won't work. Assigning it a boolean won't work because already we have told the engine that it is a string. So wherever we are using this variable name, we know that it's a string, but in JavaScript it can change. Yes, it can change. Name now here can come down here and change to a number 70. So here, before it reaches this line 9, name is a string, but after this line 9, it now becomes a number. So that was why the typeof operator was introduced, so that we can be able to determine the data type of a variable at a point in time. Now, to determine the data type of a variable using typeof, first we write typeof, give a space followed by the name of the variable, in this case name. So this statement here returns a string, and the string represents the data type of this variable. So it can return, the string can return string, it can return number, it can return big int, it can return string, it can return number, can return number here. Then it can return boolean, it can return object, can return function, it can return undefined, symbol, big int. So these are all the values. These are all string values that type of can return. So with this, we know the data type of the variable that we are dealing with. So in this case, let's log to find out this. Let's log it. Open our console and run node type of. So you see string is logged. So here we know that name is of data type string. Now if we change name to a boolean now and we log it, here name will return string. Then after this, its assignment to a boolean value, line 16 statement log will return boolean. So this is how type of works. You assign a value to any data type value you want. Then to determine its value, you use type of, give a space, and on the right hand side becomes the operand of the variable you want. Now number, the type of this is a number, will return a number. Even a non-whole number like 0.3 will still return a number. Even built-in math functions like math dot py will return a function. Now let's head over to none. There's a type of data type that returns none. This none means not a number. Means not a number. So it's an acronym from N, the first word not, N, A, and number. So this none is also a number. Let's confirm it. It's also a number. You see, which returns true. So none also is a number. Yeah, because this has introduced so many problems in our JavaScript code. We might be thinking that none is not a number, but using type of, none becomes a number. Then we can convert a number to a string using the primitive wrappers. Like for example, we can use this number constructor, then assign it a number. This, we assigned it a string, but it will return a number. So to verify, if we use type of number, it will return us that this is actually a number. A number. Also, if we use a string wrapper and wrap a number around it, it will convert this number to a string and it will return a string value as the data type. Now, whatever we pass into this into the wrapper functions will convert whatever the value into its string representative. Like now, for example, we can pass this to number. You might think it will be a string because looking at this string, there is no number values inside any of this. Yes, but also this number constructor will still return a number value. You see it. So this is how to know whatever that is returned in whatever places. So you see that this type of is a very powerful feature in JavaScript. Now let's check for an empty string. An empty string still returns a string. Even a template literal hello is also a string. Now let's test for BigInt. For BigInt, an example of BigInt is 45. Ish. So this is a BigInt. BigInt. Let's test it. So you see it returns a BigInt. So this is how we know data values, data types of number. Now let's test for infinity. Infinity is a number, so this will return true. Infinity is also a number. Now let's look at object literals. Next example, we have this object user. Now, the data type of object literal is an object. So we can use the type of so when we log it to give us an object. This is an object, so it logs an object. Also, the instance derived, the object or the instance derived using from a class using the new keyword also returns an object. For example, we have a class user. Now let's create an object from it. Now this instance user obj is an object. We verify it by using applying it to the type of operator to give us an object. Also, an array is an object. An array is an object, whether filled or not or empty. An array is an object. Then and also the instance of built-in classes are objects. For example, if we do something like this, get a date instance, is an object. Also, regex, regular expressions, is an object. Very good. Now, when we call primitive constructors using the new keyword, they return an object. Don't confuse something like this to something like this. This first one coerces the value passed into it to a number, while this creates an instance of a number. Remember, this coerces the value passed into it to a primitive value, to a primitive type, while this simply creates an object from the number. What differentiates between these two is that the new keyword is there. This new keyword creates an object while this does not. It converts while this creates an object. So some people have been saying these two are kind of like doing something that is confusing. But JavaScript made it clear that this first one creates a primitive value from whatever value that was passed into it. And this creates a number. So doing something like this is just like telling JavaScript, please convert this 90, this string to a number. So it simply does something like this. You see, so this line 1 is just practically the same thing as this. JavaScript converts this string passed through into a number, a primitive number. But this line 4 creates an object from a class number. So inside JavaScript, inside the JavaScript engine, we have a class number with the implementation there. So we are just creating a constructor. We are just using the constructor and creating an instance. So this will be a number object. They will not be the same. Let's see it. So type of num will be a number, whereby type of num will be an object. You see. So let's be very careful and be very aware and understand what we are doing. Even also using the other primitive constructors, like for example, sorry, these two are different things. This first statement converts this string passed to it into a boolean value. Regardless of whatever it is passed to it, it converts that parameter into a primitive value, a primitive data type. Now attaching this new keyword to it will now create a constructor of the boolean class. So this will now be a boolean where this will be an object of boolean. You see it. So that's how these two statements work. They are very different. Now let's clear our console and look into functions. Let's say we have a function like this, function x, just with an empty body. So a function returns a string function when used against the type of keyword. So it returns function. So you see function. So it tells us that the x is a function. Also, built-in functions, for example, it's the math dot sign function inside the math library will return a function. So even the class, even a class keyword or a declared class returns a function. So that's one of, so because this happens because class is just a syntactic sugar of writing class in JavaScript. note that we can also create instances using the function. So if we do something like this, we can do something like this. So we can create a function from we can use a function as both a function and a class in JavaScript. So this class was introduced in JavaScript just as a syntactic way of actually telling users that, hey, we can that this is to be used as a class, not as a function. So, but deep down, during compilation or during the compilation and running of JavaScript, it converts this to a function. So that's why this type of returns a function instead of, you might be thinking, class. So that's how JavaScript works deep. So this my class is just like this, just the same thing as writing this. So we can create an object from them. It works. It works perfectly well. So this class is just a way of defining a class, but deep down in JavaScript, it converts it to this as a function. So that's why using type of against this will return a function. Now let's look at null when using type of against a null value. Now, surprisingly, null returns an object, but it is not an object in every sense of the word, and how also objects are being created. So, why is this? This happened because initially in the JavaScript engine, a null objects have a type tag and value of 0. Then null using the reference tag points to a null value or a value that does not exist. Then that value is being represented deep down in the JavaScript as type tag 0. So you see it, consequently, null and an object now point uses the same type tag. So that's why I would say by mistake a null was is now regarded as an object, because a null pointer points to the first memory cell 0. An object also points has a type tag 0. So consequently, type null is now being referenced or regarded as an object when used against the type of. Now, this fixed was proposed to be fixed, yeah, but it was rejected, and so since then we have been having type null as null. So if it will be fixed, now type null will give us something like this, just null. Mhm. Yeah, but I think one of the major reasons it was not fixed because major codes and major platform will be broken if it is fixed to null. So I think it was not rejected so that it should now stand as this. We can use type of against an undefined or uninitialized variable, and it will not throw an error, it will simply return undefined. For example, let's do something like this. We are checking the data type of a variable age, but age is neither created or initialized or assigned a value. It does not exist at all. In this case, we might be thinking that this code will throw an error. No. Type of will simply return undefined. Now, but if we initialize the variable here, now in this case, line 1 will throw a reference error. So throws a reference error, it cannot access the age before initialization. So that's a very important takeaway we need to know in this lesson. There is other strange behavior of type of operator that we need to learn. Now look at this code here. We have age, we have this expression age, concatenating it to this string years old. So from the previous functions of type of we have seen, we might be thinking that type of will evaluate this expression and return the data type of the result of this expression, which will be 90 years old, because it will get 90, then using precedence it will now uh, convert it to a string and concatenate it with this right hand side operand. Now we might be thinking it will return the data type which is string, but no, it will not. Now you might be thinking, okay, so it will return this 90 years old, but the answer is actually no. Again, what type of will do is to first evaluate this, the data type of this, which is a number. It will concatenate that number with this and return the result of the concatenation, not the data type of the concatenation, which should be string. It will now return what? Number years old. Let's see it play out. So you see it. That's how type of does. Now for it now to return the actual data type of this evaluation, we need to encase it in parentheses like this. Now we run it, it will now return a string. So this is the only way by which we can tell the type of operator to return the actual or the data type of the expression after evaluation. It should give us the data type of it. So this is, in this case, this is what it will do. Now we can also change the precedence instead of returning, we can change the precedence like this. And here put 90. It will return a string because string takes precedence over number, so it will not be a concatenation. Also note that undefined primitive value returns undefined in type of, like this. This will return undefined. To return undefined. Now previously we have seen checking the value of an object created using the new keyword, like something like this. We know that this will return an object instead of a number. Now this doesn't hold true for when using it with function. This does not return an object, but using new in JavaScript, using new for against a function class, it returns a function. So in this case, the type of the value it returns is not an object, it returns a function. It is callable. So this will log a function. So type of this is not is not an object. Is not an object at all. So this is the end of our lesson, understanding type of in JavaScript. I hope you learned a lot in this lesson, and let me know if you have any questions. And I urge you to try this out, create a project in your computer and try out every single thing we did here. Type of against number constructors, primitive constructors, objects, functions, BigInts, dates, regular expressions, then using type of against uninitialized variable and undefined variables, then how it works against objects, undefined variable, symbol, boolean, and then and all primitive values, uh, so that you will have a standalone knowledge and also a practical knowledge of how type of works. So do well to follow me on my Twitter page. My handle is at ng_angel. So do well to follow me here. And also, if you have any questions, you can drop comments, and also you can drop me an email on my email address called wanga40 at gmail.com. So you can drop me messages here, and I will very sure to answer you. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.